Welcome back to my channel, World History Explored, in which we delve into the dramatic history of how Mexico lost a significant portion of its territory to the United States. This story involves war, treaties, and the shifting tides of power in the 19th century. Join us as we uncover the events and decisions that reshaped the map of North America. Historical context: Mexico's path to independence, though ultimately victorious, was paved with a decade-long struggle against the formidable might of the Royal Army. The pivotal moment came with the signing of the Treaty of Córdoba, marking the end of Spanish colonial rule in 1821. However, the triumph came at a staggering cost as the conflict ravaged vital silver mining regions such as Zacatecas and Guanajuato. These areas, once economic powerhouses, were left in ruins, dealing a severe blow to Mexico's primary source of revenue. Despite the newfound sovereignty, Mexico's financial stability lay in tatters. The developing nation embarked on an uncertain journey of governance, initially experimenting with monarchy before settling on a republic in 1824. Yet this transition failed to usher in an era of political tranquility. Instead, the fledgling republic found itself mired in instability, grappling with internal divisions and power struggles. The outbreak of war with the United States in 1846 exposed Mexico's vulnerabilities on the international stage. Ill-prepared and fragmented, the Mexican government struggled to mount an effective defense against the encroaching forces from the north. Although Mexico had successfully resisted Spanish attempts to reclaim its territory and repelled the French during the Pastry War of 1838, these victories masked deeper fissures within the nation. Internal divisions continued to erode Mexico's political resolve, with secessionist movements gaining traction in regions like Texas and the Yucatan. These movements underscored the fragility of the government, with power often residing in the hands of influential institutions such as the Mexican military and the Catholic Church, rather than the centralized state. In the turbulent landscape of post-independence Mexico, stability remained elusive, and the nation grappled with the legacy of conflict and division. However, amidst the turmoil, a resilient spirit emerged, laying the groundwork for the eventual reconstruction and modernization of the Mexican state. American expansionism. As the United States surged westward under the banner of Manifest Destiny, the sincere belief that it was destined to expand across the North American continent, tensions with Mexico simmered and eventually boiled over into conflict. The seeds of discord were sown early as American settlers began streaming into Texas, then part of Mexican territory, igniting a powder keg of cultural and political clashes. The Louisiana Purchase of 1803 left the precise border between Spanish colonial territories and the burgeoning United States ambiguous, setting the stage for boundary disputes and territorial ambitions. Efforts to address these issues culminated in the Adams-Onis Treaty of 1819, which aimed to delineate the boundaries between Spanish and American territories. Yet, despite this diplomatic effort, tensions lingered as both nations jockeyed for strategic advantage. U.S. negotiator John Quincy Adams emerged as a central figure in these negotiations, advocating for clear American possession of East Florida and asserting claims above the 42nd parallel. At the same time, Spain sought to curtail U.S. expansion into the American Southwest. However, the specter of territorial acquisition loomed large, with President Andrew Jackson spearheading efforts to purchase Mexican territory as early as 1825. Despite Jackson's ambitions, his attempts to acquire northern Mexican lands proved fruitless. Historian Peter Guardino's insights shed light on the economic dynamics driving these territorial ambitions. The United States, experiencing unprecedented prosperity fueled by the burgeoning demand for cotton from its southern states, found itself inexorably drawn towards expansion into the fertile lands of northern Mexico. This economic imperative, coupled with the ideological fervor of Manifest Destiny, fueled American expansionism and heightened tensions with Mexico. While political conflicts within the United States remained largely contained within constitutional bounds, sectional interests, and the unwavering support for expansionism within the Democratic Party added layers of complexity to the situation. As the United States continued its westward march, the stage was set for a collision of interests that would ultimately culminate in the outbreak of war between Mexico and its northern neighbor. Texas Revolution. The year 1836 marked a pivotal moment in the tumultuous history of the American Southwest with the eruption of the Texas Revolution. Fueled by a potent mix of grievances, including disputes over slavery, governance, and cultural identity, Texan settlers, bolstered by Tejano allies, boldly declared their independence from Mexico. The roots of the conflict ran deep, stretching back to the early 19th century, when American immigrants, lured by promises of abundant land and economic opportunities, began streaming into Texas in ever-increasing numbers. This demographic shift unsettled the Mexican government, which viewed the influx of settlers with growing unease. Efforts to stem the tide of immigration, such as the abolition of slavery and the imposition of taxes on American goods, only served to inflame tensions between Texas and Mexico. The rise of Mexican conservatives and the consolidation of power under the iron-fisted rule of General Antonio López de Santa Anna further exacerbated the situation. As Santa Anna centralized power and marginalized dissent, the simmering discontent in Texas reached a boiling point. In a bold assertion of their autonomy, Texan leaders, including luminaries like Sam Houston, rallied their forces and issued a declaration of independence, casting off the yoke of Mexican authority. Despite early setbacks and reversals, the Texan forces, displaying remarkable resilience and determination, achieved a stunning victory at the Battle of San Jacinto. The capture of Santa Anna himself proved to be a turning point, solidifying Texian resolve and dealing a devastating blow to Mexican aspirations for control. The triumph at San Jacinto secured Texian independence, though Mexico adamantly refused to recognize the fledgling republic's sovereignty. Undeterred, Texas sought validation on the international stage, garnering official recognition from several European powers. However, Mexico's refusal to cede its claim to Texas set the stage for further conflict. The United States' annexation of Texas in 1845 catalyzed renewed hostilities between Mexico and its northern neighbor, sparking the Mexican-American War. Mexico viewed the annexation as a blatant act of aggression, intensifying the long-standing animosity between the two nations and plunging them into a bitter and protracted conflict for control of the American Southwest. The Mexican-American War. The annexation of Texas in 1845 precipitated a cascade of events that ultimately plunged Mexico and the United States into the crucible of the Mexican-American War. As the dust settled on the disputed borders of Texas, tensions between the two nations reached a fever pitch, culminating in open conflict in 1846. The Mexican-American War unfolded against a backdrop of asymmetrical power dynamics, with the United States boasting superior military resources and organizational prowess. U.S. forces marshaled with efficiency and resolve swiftly overwhelmed Mexican defenses, seizing key strategic positions and laying siege to vital cities. Major engagements such as the Siege of Veracruz and the capture of Mexico City served as pivotal moments in the conflict, tilting the scales decisively in favor of the United States. Despite Mexico's brave resistance and reluctance to cede territory, the relentless advance of U.S. forces left little room for negotiation. In early 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo emerged as the culmination of protracted negotiations, officially redefining the border between Mexico and the United States. The terms of the treaty, while a bitter pill for Mexico to swallow, effectively transferred vast swaths of territory, including Alta California and Santa Fe de Nuevo Mexico, into the hands of the United States. However, the acquisition of these new territories reignited the smoldering embers of sectional conflict within the United States, particularly over the issue of slavery. The incorporation of these lands into the Union intensified the divide between the northern and southern states, with each faction fiercely contesting the future status of slavery in the acquired territories. Various proposals emerged in an attempt to navigate this thorny issue and maintain the fragile balance of power within the Union. The Wilmot Proviso, advocating for the prohibition of slavery in the acquired territories, clashed with the doctrine of popular sovereignty, which granted residents the right to determine the fate of slavery through democratic means. The Compromise of 1850, a complex legislative package crafted to appease both northern and southern interests, sought to diffuse tensions and preserve the Union. Despite these efforts at reconciliation, the underlying tensions persisted, laying the groundwork for further strife and division in the years to come. The Mexican-American War, while ostensibly settling territorial disputes, ultimately served to exacerbate the fissures within American society, foreshadowing the tumultuous decades that lay ahead. Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, signed in 1848, marked the culmination of the Mexican-American War and heralded a seismic shift in the geopolitical landscape of North America. Mexico, compelled by the relentless advance of U.S. forces and the stark realities of war, relinquished a vast expanse of territory encompassing present-day California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, and significant portions of Texas. In exchange for this staggering concession, the United States agreed to pay Mexico $15 million, a sum intended to assuage the financial burdens incurred by the conflict. However, the compensation, while substantial, scarcely alleviated the economic strain inflicted upon Mexico by the war's devastating toll. The acquisition of these vast territories would leave an indelible imprint on the fabric of American society, reshaping the cultural, economic, and demographic contours of the nation. The influx of settlers drawn by the promise of fertile lands, abundant resources, and new opportunities would fuel a wave of westward expansion unparalleled in American history. Yet amidst the euphoria of territorial acquisition, a contentious and deeply divisive issue loomed large: the question of slavery in the newly acquired territories. The specter of slavery cast a long shadow over the nation's conscience, igniting fierce debates over the moral, economic, and political implications of its expansion into the West. For many of the soldiers and officers who had fought bravely in the crucible of the Mexican-American War, the conflict served as a prelude to an even greater and more harrowing struggle: the Civil War. Men who had once stood shoulder to shoulder in battle would soon find themselves arrayed against one another on the blood-soaked fields of America's heartland, locked in a bitter and protracted struggle over the fate of the Union and the future of slavery. The Goddard Purchase. In the wake of the Mexican-American War, which dramatically reshaped North America's borders, the United States continued its expansionist trajectory with the Goddard Purchase of 1853. This landmark agreement, shrouded in political intrigue and economic ambition, saw the United States carve out yet another slice of territory from its weakened neighbor to the south. The impetus behind the Goddard Purchase lay in the ambitious vision of constructing a transcontinental railroad. This monumental engineering feat promised to revolutionize transportation and commerce across the vast expanse of the American West. Proponents of the purchase argued that acquiring additional territory in the southwestern reaches of what is now Arizona and New Mexico was essential to facilitate the construction of this transformative infrastructure project. The negotiations culminated in the United States acquiring a stretch of land encompassing roughly 29,000 square miles for the considerable sum of $10 million. This transaction, while ostensibly aimed at furthering the nation's economic interests and expanding its territorial reach, exacted a heavy toll on Mexico, further diminishing its already diminished territorial holdings. However, the motivations driving the Goddard Purchase extended beyond mere economic considerations. Southern interests in particular played a pivotal role in pushing for the acquisition, driven by a desire to secure a viable route for the transcontinental railroad that would bolster business interests and potentially pave the way for the establishment of a slave state on the Pacific coast. The prospect of extending the institution of slavery into the newly acquired territories loomed large in the minds of Southern policymakers, who viewed the expansion of slaveholding territory as essential to maintaining their political and economic dominance within the Union. The Goddard Purchase, therefore, represented not only a strategic move to secure critical infrastructure for the nation's development, but also a calculated maneuver to advance the interests of the South and perpetuate the institution of slavery in the expanding reaches of the American West. The loss of territory significantly reshaped Mexico's economic and political landscape, while it facilitated the United States' expansion to the Pacific coast. This historical episode reflects the complex interplay of expansionist policies, war, and diplomacy in shaping national boundaries. For more detailed stories about historical conflicts and territorial changes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think were the long-term impacts of these territorial changes on both countries? Thanks for watching. Check out our other videos for more fascinating insights into history and politics. Stay curious. Please like and subscribe to my channel World History Explored. Thank you.